Oh look, it's the latest Doctor Who magazine. My second favourite Doctor Who magazine. Oh whoa, what's this? They've ripped off my deal? Laughing at the inconsistencies of canon? That's my thing! Well, those are making terrible anime mashups. But the laws of canon are mine, and they will obey me. Gone too far. Lived too long. Let's just get to the facts. Everybody knows the Doctor's real name. Sorry, Moffat. That whole mystery branch falls a little bit flat when it turns out everyone and their nan knows the Doctor's true name, and that is Dr. Disco.
Hello, it's Dr. Disco.
He said it. He said his name. Why does no one talk about this? Name of the Doctor might be one of the weaker subversions Moffat did in his tenure, obviously not giving us an answer to the titular question. And good on him, Moffat understood that there were some mysteries that were a mystery too far. But what do we know about his name? There's been a lot of hints across all the mediums over the years, giving us hints about what it might sound like on human ears, or what it could be, but never really probing into the mystery of why is the Doctor's name a mystery in the first place? The Doctor's name is a promise I made myself. Yeah, okay, that's grand, but why did you change it in the first place? What was wrong with the old name? Was it Alan? Was it Alan? If it were Alan, Missy would have definitely told us. And indeed, all of his old childhood friends, his enemies, and even in a court of law, his official title is the Doctor. That's a boundary that even the Master and the Rani respect. When he briefly had time in office, his official title was Lord President Doctor, to the dismay of every Gallifreyan everywhere. But this also tells us that across all of Gallifrey it's communally understood that the Doctor bearing his own name is out of the question and unreasonable. It's interesting that everybody seems to know that. It also couldn't be Alan because apparently it's difficult to pronounce, especially for adult humans. The book Sleepy tells us that it possesses 38 syllables. And in Salvation, the first Doctor tells someone they wouldn't even be able to pronounce that first syllable of it. By some accounts, the Doctor started using the title whilst travelling with Susan, and by some other ones, it is his actual birth name. We've heard other names in the series, from Barusa to Akitio. If the Doctor's name is unpronounceable, it's the only one in the series that is. And, despite it being unpronounceable, a companion has actually overheard it before, Sam. But Sam couldn't make head the tails of it. Never heard of her before? Well, she joins an exclusive club with River and Susan. As, sorry, the silence, Susan once wrote his name down in a hypercube and sent it to McGann. In The Last Voyage, one of a bunch of audio stories David Tennant did during his tenure, which are really hard to track down now, Ten came across members of an unidentified pan-dimensional race that claimed to know his real name. That's crazy. Where were they on Translaw? Clara presumably learned it in Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS, but then forgot it because of time. But she's definitely bluffed about knowing his real name to others, probably to impress a bunch of Cybermen. Does she? Probably not. Now, the Silence Will Fall arc hinges entirely on the Doctor's name being forbidden to be said out loud. But one person could bring the galaxy to its knees. Meet Becky. Becky was the 6th Doctor's ballroom dance teacher, who, for no reason at all, was told the Doctor's name in passing. What? Now, of course it didn't have the later Moffat importance, but it was still pretty important. Pretty irresponsible, actually. Who would dare challenge 50 years of Doctor Who canon? It was Robert Shearman. Teach Yourself Ballroom Dancing is actually a lovely, imaginative little short. It's the same one where he takes ballroom classes in the middle of an Auton invasion.
River, you know my name.
Auto-destruct.
You whispered my name in my ear.
9, 8.
There's only one reason I would ever tell anyone my name. There's only one time I could.
That one afternoon I got a really good dance class. I mean, to be fair, they were really good classes. Does Becky understand the weight of this situation? If the Daleks and the Silence land in London and come after Becky, all they have to do is do their homework, and they found one dance instructor from London. I don't know what to tell you. Becky could have stopped the siege of Trenzalore. Fucking Becky. But now we know that the Doctor does have a strange alien name. That's a concern, because a secret fear of mine is that the Doctor's real name is something really sci-fi and geeky. My true name is Brylazok. Or like Romana ad voluntarunda. Which, yeah, no thanks. His name is Doctor Who. Number 2! So how did the Delgado Master regenerate? We never saw it on screen for obvious, unfortunate reasons. But I think it's safe to assume that the next one is the Crispy Master. The Scabby Master. Give me your scabs! Slightly tasteless, I always thought, but it does result in one of the best classic cereals of all time. Legacy of the Daleks tries to tackle the late-stage Delgado Master, to very middling effects. I still don't even understand how that book ended, frankly. And the last time we saw him on TV was Frontier in Space, which is a very unceremonious end to the character. Let's get away from that. This Master's swan song fell to Doctor Who magazine with their story, Doorway to Hell. A 12th Doctor story. I love it. Love it when old Masters come up against newer Doctors. Because there's no reason they shouldn't. There's no rule. It's just for some reason they run quite parallel. Strange for a TV show about 2 time-travelling aliens. Seeing Capaldi's Doctor versus the Delgado Master is an absolute treat. The Doctor is staying with the Collins family, painting big targets on their heads for the Master to send them to his new Hell Dimension. Using the Archon energy in their bodies from their proximity to the Doctor, because apparently the Master doesn't have any, he intends to meet the Great Kiajin, the being who once split the Chronon, because apparently this will lead to you having Dragon Ball Z powers. In what is maybe the only time that the Master's favourite plan of appeal to an ancient deity to gain their powers actually pays off for him, and he becomes a god of time. For exactly 5 panels. The Master promises to conquer Gallifrey on his behalf, something he would get round to without any godlike powers a couple years down the line. The Doctor does that thing from Guardians of the Galaxy where they all hold hands, and repel his own attack back at him, leaving him a deformed mess. Nothing will stand in my way, not even death, for what is death to me? I am the Master, all life will obey me. I got way too into that. That is a gap in the canon that you are more than welcome to fill. Just try and make it good and not have Susan as good as murder him. 12 is also the perfect Doctor of this story. I've always felt like he's an endgame Doctor, a final form Doctor, for whilst he may not be the last, he's definitely the most powerful and experienced. He's the one who wraps up a lot of beefs, and that he can do his own stories blindfolded. Sometimes literally. So even though the Master has attained godlike powers, the 12th Doctor doesn't even blink. In fact, he makes the most of the situation and makes sure to let him know that this Doctor he's facing is thousands of years old and so far beyond anything he can comprehend. That's the Master's worst nightmare. Give him a little flash forward to what he's going to be dealing with when he's wearing corsets. Regardless, just know that the Delgado Master went out in the coolest way possible. And fact number 3. Hey, whoa, take it easy. I won't hesitate, bitch. This image of Nyssa exudes very powerful vibes, I have to admit. But hey, a challenger approaches. But did you consider me? But hey, if you're covering her, then who's covering you? Oh no, why are there so many Doctor Who companions who hold guns? Alright, this is becoming a problem. It's a stick-up. It's a Mexican standoff. On screen, the exploits of Nyssa are hardly the most engaging. Princess of Traken, more like the Ice Queen of Traken. But she was Peter Davison's favourite companion. Kind of a messed up thing to say, but hey, it's very in character. The 5th Doctor absolutely did pick favourites. But because Nyssa was so important to him as a character, she ended up being a major part of Big Finish's early experimental output. And across the audios and the novels, a lot has happened to Nyssa. This woman has a mad timeline. Did you know that after the events of Time Flight, Nyssa feels suddenly compelled to leave the TARDIS and man a medic ship in the Time War? The Time War. And after that, she rejoins the TARDIS and just, I don't know, does the events of Snake Dance or something, without ever mentioning it. Nyssa was eventually able to cure Lazar's disease and left Terminus to settle down as an academic in a university, where she meets the 4th Doctor again long before they've ever met, married a man called Lazarti, and had 2 children, Nika and Adric. At some point she gets an android called Loki, whose hard drive had to be erased because it got corrupted by his fear of his own shadow. That's an actual detail in one of these fucking stories. I don't know, you're looking at me, I don't know. Then a middle-aged Nyssa meets up with the Doctor, Tegan and Turlough again and continues having adventures. Brilliant, what a cool idea! As a result, a modern day Sarah Sutton is on the box art and there's some stellar stories in here. Like, if you're gonna jump into Big Finish, find the ones that have Nyssa, Turlough and Tegan. Trust me. But a lot happens in this time. Her and Turlough go to the 51st century and spend a year training to help defeat Magnus Greel. In Rat Trap, a slightly selfish Nyssa teams up with the rats and considers developing a non-lethal human plague. For a bunch of rats. Hey, I'm not bad-mouthing you, please put the gun down, miss. And then in 1926 India, Nyssa was rejuvenated and had her youth restored, making her look similar to how she had been in her original adventures in the TARDIS. How does that go down with her children, I wonder? Well, don't worry about it, because Nyssa basically abandons them. The TARDIS team then start finding themselves battling the Fourth Doctor's villain gallery, and end up in E-Space again for a whole nother trilogy. A trilogy which, hey, spoiler, involves Nyssa staying behind and sacrificing herself in E-Space so her friends can get back to N-Space. I sound like such a fucking nerd. And despite sacrificing herself, Nyssa apparently lived for a whole nother decade. But then, also somehow, Russell T Davies decreed that Nyssa came to live in 21st century Australia with Tegan. And then, at Sarah Jane's funeral, Clyde Langer describes them as a couple. We know what you're doing, Russell. I'm there for it. Hanky goddamn panky in the TARDIS. So, crazy timeline. Let's recap. Parents die, travel with the Doctor. Doctor's face changes. Daddy's murderer wearing Daddy's face. Adric dies. Tegan leaves. 2 more companions come and go. Travelling solo with the Doctor. Time War. Leaves the TARDIS. Rejoins the TARDIS. De-aged. Dies. Tegan. Retiring with Tegan. And then, cooking series. That's presumably the only way I can fit this into the timeline. Don't hate. It doesn't go together, and that's the beauty of it. If you have one takeaway from this fact, just know that Nyssa of Traken is fucking packing. And that's us done for another one. It is a heat wave currently, and I am melting. During the next one, I'm just going to be a sentient ball of goop, spouting Doctor Who trivia to the masses. I will see you then, in whatever sweat-based form I take.